what to make of Florida State, because Florida State is, sitting really, really pretty now in the ACC. Okay, like they're free and clear of the rest of the competition, and they're going to be favored in all of the rest of their games. If I said to you guys right now, who is the most likely loss? What opponent offers the most likely loss to Florida State? Is it at home against Syracuse this weekend? Is it at home against Duke? Is it at Wake Forest? No. Is it at Pitt? No. Is it at home against Miami? It's a home game against Miami. They play North Alabama, and they're at Florida. Folks, Florida State's best chance for a loss is at Florida, where the Gators are a pretty decent team, okay? Florida State only has a 23.4% chance of losing that game. They've got a 22% chance of losing to Duke. They've got a 13% chance of losing at Wake Forest. They've got a 14% chance of losing at Pitt, and at home against Miami. The numbers say Miami's got the best chance to beat them, 29.2%. But here's what I want you to think about, all right? If you go conference by conference here, okay? If you think conference by conference here, do you think about the Pac-12? The Pac-12 is going to have an unbeaten, right? Like, we believe the Pac-12 is going to have an unbeaten. We don't know if it's Oregon, Washington, or USC. We don't know. But we believe, that the winner of this week's game, Oregon and Washington, has a great shot because we believe these two teams to be better than USC and certainly better than Washington State, Oregon State, and Utah. Other good teams in UCLA also in the Pac-12. So now you've got Florida State and you got a Pac-12 unbeaten. We expect Georgia to be unbeaten in the SEC, right? Softest Power 5 schedule for a defending national champion ever. So now you've got Georgia, you got the Pac-12 unbeaten, and you got Florida State. All right? Then you look at the Big Ten. And I would say to you, who the hell is beating Michigan? Have you seen some of these scores? Minnesota just scored the most points on Michigan all year. You know how many they had? They were the only Michigan opponent to hit double digits this year, 10 points. The last 2 weeks, Michigan has beaten Nebraska and Minnesota, two decent Big Ten schools, 87-17. All right? Now think about that. So who is going to knock off Michigan? Then you've got the Big 12. And you just had Oklahoma beat Texas. There's an 83% chance that those teams rematch again in the Big 12 championship game. If Oklahoma wins that game, all right, which is the biggest if of the bunch, right? Because Texas has a viable shot. Could Florida State get left out of this thing? And I know what you're saying. Oh, Mark, there's not going to be 5 unbeatens. Oh, those are what the odds say. I've asked Kelly Ford that question. But we're getting to the point of the schedule now, halfway through, where you're saying to yourself, okay, the Oregon-Washington winner, who's going to beat them? Who's going to beat Michigan? Who's going to beat Georgia? Right? Who's going to win? Oklahoma has about a 90% chance to win every other game they play this year, except for Texas again in the Big 12 championship game, should there be a rematch. Folks, this is going to be good. This is going to be intriguing. This is going to be entertaining. Diesel, if you had 5 Power 5 unbeatens, okay? Let's say your Power 5 unbeatens are Washington, Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Florida State. Does Florida State not get left out in that scenario? Isn't it wild to think about that?
It is wild to think about it. So you really got to – I think the debate comes down to who has the overall tougher schedule or the more impressive resume. Would it be Oklahoma in a somewhat weak Big 12, or would it be Florida State in a stronger than usual, but it's not the usual suspects, so you may lose a little bit of cachet when you say, oh, Duke is really good this year. Well, they're like, man, but it's Duke. Like, it's still Duke. That's the way they're going to look at it. You know, even though Duke has shown themselves to be a really good football team this year. They'll look at it like Baylor just sounds better than Duke. Let's be real. So Oklahoma may get a little bit of that benefit of the doubt if it comes all the way down to the final few details and the points on which you're splitting hairs. I think you go Oklahoma, you give them the nod. I could very well see why. It takes us back to that year when what was it? Texas and Southern Cal played for the national championship game. A fantastic game, and that was the year that Auburn was undefeated as well, and people thought Auburn should have played for the national championship. I think you'd end up like that, but this is one of those great reasons and great scenarios. It sucks for the team that gets left out. That sort of forces playoff expansion.
Oh, it does. It does. And it's going to be, I'm telling you, the first college football playoff rankings are going to be released Tuesday, October 31st. I have a feeling that we're going to have 5 Power 5 unbeatens when the calendar turns to November. And then when that happens, there's going to be sheer panic among those 5 teams. And you're going to have infighting diesel. It's going to be great. It's going to be like everybody saying something about somebody's mama, who's the 5th with the worst schedule. And you're right. It's probably never going to be that way. But Diesel, I'm telling you, if there are 5 unbeatens, the one that I would leave out would be Florida State.